Welcome to Life Stories, where the girl they laughed at over dinner turns out to own the building they're sitting in. Imagine spending your whole life being underestimated and then holding the power to unravel every secret they tried to hide. This isn't just a story about revenge, it's about legacy, silence, and the kind of strength that doesn't shout, but builds. It's about the daughter they dismissed, the name they use like a crown, and the moment when truth walks into the boardroom wearing a suit no one saw coming. If you've ever been counted out, told you were small, or watched others claim what you quietly earned, this story was written for you. Stay with us, because the truth doesn't just come to light. It walks in, looks them in the eye, and calmly takes back everything. Now, let's begin. The Whitmore family dinners weren't meals, they were exhibitions. A curated spectacle of legacy wealth performed monthly in the ancestral estate nestled among the redwoods outside Marin Hills. No one came hungry. They came armed, with real estate appraisals, luxury purchases, and new connections to people who just launched another unicorn or sat on the board of a climate tech fund. Harper Lane took her usual seat near the stone fireplace, the only person drinking iced tea instead of Syrah. Her cousins were already in full swing. Chase, all navy blazer and inherited smirk, lifted his glass and drawled, "Just closed on 300 acres up in Jackson Hole. Neighbor's a guy who basically built Silicon Valley." Avery, clad in understated couture and overconfidence, tossed her designer clutch on the table. "Please, we just finalized a vineyard in Umbria. Private access to the Mediterranean. You can't even put a number on that view." Harper smiled behind the rim of her glass. "Oh, but you could put a number on it." And she had, quietly, strategically, and months ago. Not that anyone at this table would ever imagine Harper Lane, in her thrifted blazer and scuffed boots, as a contender. Not when they still thought she rented. Her Aunt Blair's voice, sharp and saccharine, cut through the laughter like a scalpel. "You've been awfully quiet, Harper." Chase leaned in. "We were just wondering about your situation." There it was, the script. "What about it?" Harper asked, her tone even. "That little duplex in Seattle, on Belmont Avenue, right?" Chase raised an eyebrow. "Still renting?" Avery added. "Didn't know people our age still did that." Harper nearly laughed. That duplex was the first property her firm had acquired. It now housed over 24 tenants, all under fair market rents, preserved with integrity and renovated with care. Her company, Atlas and North, owned the building, and 4 others on the block. But to them, she was still the girl who showed apartments to broke grad students and scraped by on commissions. "I like the space," Harper said simply. "You're 34, sweetheart," Aunt Blair said, tilting her wine glass. "Isn't it time to buy something real?" "Real? Try a $2.1 billion portfolio, multifamily properties, commercial towers, legacy spaces in 5 cities, including Whitmore Tower, the very building they all still thought they ran. Acquired 6 months ago quietly through a trust no one could trace." "I've managed just fine," Harper replied. Chase gave a sympathetic smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Sure, until your landlord boots you out when that block gets redeveloped." "What redevelopment?" Harper feigned curiosity. Avery leaned forward, her tone pitying. "Some firm bought the entire street, going to raise the whole thing, probably turn it into a biotech incubator or something grotesque." Harper's stomach twisted, but she didn't show it. Not out of guilt, out of how casually they said it, as if the families living there didn't matter, as if homes were just placeholders for bigger margins. She was the buyer, and she'd protected those tenants with ironclad clauses. No one was going anywhere. "Of course, deals like that are way out of your league," Chase added, chuckling. "Maybe she can move back into the guest house," Blair chimed in. "We'll help you find something more respectable. Maybe even someone more respectable." Harper's smile was tight. "I'm happy where I am, and so is my landlord." The conversation shifted, but something had changed. The air felt heavier, and Harper knew why. Her father, Robert Lane, set down his glass and cleared his throat. "Actually, this dinner's partly business," he said. "There's concern about the new majority owner of Whitmore Tower." Harper's pulse stilled. "They're anonymous, purchased through a Delaware holding, Possibly foreign. Robert frowned. They've ordered a full audit. Chase went pale. Why would anyone care about a family-managed building? Blair's pearls twitched as her voice wavered. The Whitmore name still holds weight. That's just it, Robert said. This firm, Atlas and North, doesn't seem impressed by names. A silence fell. Not confusion. Fear. Harper's expression didn't change, but her mind raced. The audit would uncover everything. The bogus maintenance contracts, the self-dealing invoices, the way her cousins siphoned funds into vacation homes and designer handbags filed as client relations. And when the final report landed, it would have her signature on the cover. Avery's voice was suddenly syrupy. Maybe Harper could help. She's in real estate, isn't she? She might know someone over at Atlas? Every head turned. Harper held their gaze. For years they had dismissed her, pitied her, forgotten her at their glittering galas and strategic weddings. Now, for the first time, they were looking at her as someone who mattered, someone with leverage. I mostly handle small-scale residential, she said softly. Nothing at this level. You can't even help your own family? Chase spat. Harper rose slowly, slinging her worn leather bag over one shoulder. Inside were the audit reports, final contracts, and the operational overhaul that would change everything. Some of us, she said, have early mornings. You're still showing rent-controlled studios? Avery sneered. I'm running a business, Harper said, built on ethics, not excuses. As she left the table, Aunt Blair called after her sweetly, Next time, Harper, maybe dress more like a Whitmore. Appearances matter. Harper paused at the door. Don't worry, tomorrow I'll look exactly like the Whitmores expect. They just don't know I'm already the one running the show. What if the person your family pities is the only one who can save them from themselves? Have you ever been underestimated so deeply that you stopped correcting them and started building instead? Tomorrow, the boardroom doors open. And when they do, the Whitmores will learn exactly who Harper Lane has become. The elevator doors closed with a muted hiss, sealing Harper inside the steel silence of Whitmore Tower's private lift. Her reflection stared back at her. Sharp suit, calm eyes, steady hands, but inside, everything was shifting. The walls felt tighter the higher she ascended. She had prepared for this moment for over a year. Every contract, every renovation, every deal had led here. But nothing had prepared her for how it would feel to walk into the boardroom where her own family would be sitting, unaware, unguarded, and soon undone. Hila was waiting for her on the executive floor, clipboard in hand. Audit packets have been distributed, legals on standby, press embargo lifts in 40 minutes. Harper nodded. You still want to go in alone? Hila asked. Yes, Harper replied. She stepped into the boardroom, and for a moment, time didn't move. The Whitmores were gathered at the far end of the table, Chase tapping furiously on his phone, Avery whispering to Blair with tight-lipped urgency, Robert frowning into his lap. They looked like royalty whose crown had gone missing and had no idea it was already on the head of the girl they'd ignored. Who are you? Chase snapped. Harper set her briefcase on the table's head. Harper Lane, she said evenly, founder and sole owner of Atlas and North. A pause. Excuse me? Blair blinked, lips parting. That's not possible. I acquired controlling interest in Whitmore Tower through a private trust 6 months ago, Harper said, sliding the first audit file forward. And as of this morning, I've filed for full managerial oversight. You bought this building? Avery's voice was thin. You? I did, Harper replied. And 4 others across the district, including the Belmont block you thought was being demolished. It's being restored, with rent protections intact. Robert leaned forward, eyes darker than she'd ever seen them. You planned this. You lied to us. No, Harper said. I just let you talk. She opened the audit folders and laid out the numbers, line by line, fund by fund. Every misallocated budget, every falsified receipt, every contract awarded to someone's husband or friend or high school roommate at triple market rate. Avery's hands trembled as she skimmed the documents. You're airing our laundry in front of strangers? Blair hissed. No, Harper said, voice quiet. You aired it. I'm just cleaning it up. Chase stood, fists clenched. You think this gives you power? You think you're better than us? No, Harper said. I think I chose differently. Then Robert said something Harper didn't expect. Why? He asked. Why didn't you come to me? Harper's chest tightened. I did, she said. Years ago, after college, I asked you to help me start something small, a fund for historic renovations. You said I needed real ambition, that I was thinking too modestly, too emotionally. He flinched, and for a moment she saw it. Regret, not rage. Instead, Harper continued, I started with 3 tenants and a crumbling duplex, and I built from there. The silence that followed wasn't cold, it was heavy, like something sacred had been broken open. I didn't do this to shame you, Harper said, but you've used legacy as a license to exploit, to dress up greed as vision. That ends today. She turned toward the screen. With one tap, the operational transition went live. New board, new oversight, full transparency. But just as she began to explain the next steps, a folder slid across the table toward her. What's this? Harper asked. Avery avoided her eyes. Something I found in the Tower archives, from your grandfather. It's about you. Harper frowned and opened it. Inside were letters. Dozens of them. Yellowed, dated, and addressed to her, but never delivered. Her grandfather had written to her throughout her teens. Letters about architecture, community, what buildings should mean. Letters where he apologized for how the family treated her father. Letters about belief in her. I don't understand, she whispered. He knew, Robert said softly. He knew you'd carry the name differently. We didn't deserve you, Harper, but he believed in you. Harper sat back, heart pounding. The building swayed gently in the wind, the only sound in the silence. Everything inside her, anger, vindication, strategy, softened. Not into weakness, into weight, into truth. She'd come here to expose them. But maybe she'd also come here to reclaim something. Not just her name, her place. She looked up. I'm not here to destroy the Whitmores. I'm here to remind you of what this name could mean, what it once did. And for the first time, no one argued. What would you do if the legacy you thought betrayed you turned out to have always believed in you? Would you tear it down or build it back on your terms? But just as Harper lets her guard down, a new threat emerges, one that could unravel everything she's built. The past isn't done with her yet. Don't miss what happens next. The last tenants of the Belmont block stood in the morning light, framed by the scaffolding that now wrapped gently around their building like a second skin. Children chased each other through the courtyard. Mr. Keller, 91 and still sharp, sipped his coffee beside the rose bushes he planted 4 decades ago. Harper watched them from the sidewalk, a soft breeze lifting the collar of her coat. This, she thought, was what real legacy looked like. Lives untouched by eviction notices, by fear of developers who saw families as footnotes to profit. Behind her, a car door slammed. Harper! Robert Lane called, jogging to catch up. He looked different now. No longer the indifferent boardroom patriarch, but something leaner, slower, humbled. She turned, uncertain. I wanted to talk, he said, catching his breath. About the letters. Harper nodded once. They were real, he said. Your grandfather wrote them. He sent them to me to pass along. I kept them. At first, I told myself I was waiting until you were older. Then I just didn't think you'd want them. Why now? She asked quietly. Because I realized I didn't want you to see me the way I saw my own father, he said, eyes tired. As a man who had everything but never passed down what mattered. The truth of it landed between them like a stone in water. The ripples would take years to reach the edges of everything they both buried. I read them all, Harper said. He believed in community, in design that protects, not displaces. It was everything I needed to hear. A decade ago. I know, he whispered. They stood in silence until Harper spoke again. I'm not rebuilding this family, she said. I'm rebuilding what we forgot. Robert nodded. Then teach me. Let me help, not as your father, but as someone finally willing to learn. Harper didn't answer. Not with words. She simply gestured toward the Belmont lobby. Come meet the real owners of this city. Inside, the tenants had gathered for the first advisory council, something Harper had insisted on forming for every building under Atlas and North. No decisions made without them. No renovations without community input. As she and Robert entered, a hush fell. "This is Robert Lane," she said simply. "He helped design the original tower. He's here to listen." And he did. For over 2 hours, Robert sat beside retired teachers, single parents, immigrant families, hearing about clogged pipes, broken mailboxes, and what it meant to finally feel heard. Harper watched her father nod, take notes, even apologize. And it wasn't a performance. Later, on the roof overlooking downtown Seattle, Robert looked out at the skyline. "I never imagined you'd build all this," he said. "I didn't build it alone," she replied. He turned to her. "So what happens now?" Harper didn't answer immediately. The sky was shifting, pale orange, hints of winter. The city buzzed beneath them, not loud but steady. "I make room," she said at last. "For others, for what's next." The next few months unfolded in quiet revolution. Whitmore Tower restructured its leadership. Contracts were rebid, and ghost vendors disappeared overnight. Blair withdrew from social life, citing stress, but privately, Harper knew she couldn't stomach a world where appearance no longer guaranteed authority. Avery, surprisingly, didn't run. Instead, she stayed. She took a project lead role at a nonprofit redevelopment agency in Oakland. Her first memo, "We start by listening." Chase vanished for a while. Europe, then Costa Rica, then somewhere in Montana. But one night, Harper got an envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a handwritten note. "You were right. I didn't see it, but I see it now." And beneath the note, a cashier's check. $1 million made out to a housing trust Harper had just launched. And then something she hadn't expected. A diagnosis. Not for her, but for Robert. Stage 2, treatable but uncertain. She drove him to every appointment, sat beside him during infusions. They talked about buildings, about her mother, about the silence between them that had lasted too long. And one day, as he drifted to sleep in the clinic chair, he said it. "I used to think love was in what we gave, but it's in what we stayed for." Harper didn't cry then. Not in the room. But later that night, back in her Belmont apartment, she let the tears come. They weren't grief, not yet. They were release. For every moment she had doubted herself, for every year she had walked alone, mistaking resilience for isolation. She was learning, finally, that strength didn't mean silence. And legacy didn't mean inheritance. It meant presence. 6 months later, Harper stood before a crowd gathered at the grand opening of the Whitmore Community Arts Center. Built on the ground floor of the old tower, designed with repurposed stone and reclaimed wood, a place for expression, for refuge, for possibility. She stepped up to the podium. "I was told once that the Whitmore name held weight," she began. "I'd like to believe now it holds people." There was silence. Then applause. Then tears. Her mother, standing off to the side, wiped one away before reaching for Harper's hand. They didn't say anything. They didn't need to. Afterward, Harper sat alone in the courtyard. Robert walked up slowly, a cane now in hand. He sat beside her, looked up at the building. "You've done something here," he said. "I know," she said. He smiled. "You've rewritten us." "No," Harper said, watching children dance in chalk rainbows on the concrete. "I just remembered us better than we remembered ourselves." They sat there as the lights flickered on. No gold-plated plaque, no family crest, just warmth and space, and something that would last. How did this story move you? What part of Harper's journey did you feel most deeply? Comment 100 if this story resonated with you. Tell us where you're watching from. We'd love to know. Share this story with someone who believes in quiet strength. Thank you for watching Life Stories.